woman I know crazy about an automobile. Every woman I know crazy about an automobile. Well, here I am standing with nothing but a rubber heel. Every woman I know crazy about an automobile. Every woman I know crazy about an automobile. Well, here I am standing with nothing but a rubber heel.
Hi guys, this is Ramon here, and I want to say thank you for subscribing to this channel, watching it, and we've now hit 30,000 subscribers. I don't know if that means anything, I don't know if that's a landmark of any sort, but I just want to say thank you to everyone. And I just thought for this special edition of Coffee Chat, we're going to go to you guys, the subscribers, and check out some of your questions. So I'm going to pick out 10 questions now, and answer these 10 questions as best I can. So let's have a look here. So the first question is from Ethan, and Ethan asked me, what are your favorite guitar solos that you've written? It's a great question actually. Well, I've released, actually, believe it or not, I've released 10 albums, I think maybe 12, and they were actually all on independent record labels throughout my career, so none of them really did much damage. I got a few on some soundtracks. Some Guns of Anarchy was a song called Boo Davis. It was called Drew Mississippi, was the album, sorry, and the song was called Who Stole the Booty, which I'm going to play to you now.
My baby told me long, long time ago, said, baby, you got the kind of love, don't wanna let it go. I ain't gonna worry about it, baby. Oh, I feel like I better get on down, yeah. Said that you love me, baby. Oh, Lord! My baby left me all alone. Let me cry, pretty baby. Baby got the kind of loving, yeah. Please don't leave me to cry, baby. Please don't leave me to cry, baby. Good Lord, good baby. Oh, I love my baby. Everybody talk about me like a dog. Well, I need somebody.
So that was kind of like my favorite riff, I guess. But as far as guitar solos, I'm never really happy with my guitar solos. I always think I'm improving. So that's going to be a really impossible question for me to answer, because I'm just never happy. Am I happy? Probably not. No, I've probably never been happy with any of my guitar solos. So I'm always thinking the next one's going to be the best one, and it never is. So I'm going to come back to you, Ethan. If I ever do a guitar solo that I'm happy with, I'm gonna tell you. You know, I've sort of written songs that I'm happy with, but guitar solos, definitely not. No. So sorry. Excuse me. Right. Next question. Mark asks me, still be interested in seeing a Daniels burst with Bob's 58. Mark, you're supposed to ask me a question. Right, so I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a statement or a question, but I can't answer that right now. James asks me, what do you hope to achieve, musically speaking, in the next few years? That is an amazing question. Thank you. At the moment, well, you know, we've got the COVID situation, so it's going to be kind of difficult. But aside from the guitar show, which I'm really loving doing, and this is like my favorite thing, one of my favorite things I've ever done, musically speaking, is the guitar show, because I can play. You know, when I do a video for the guitar show, I don't have to think, okay, does this have to be artistically valid? I can just play guitar, and I know someone's going to like it, or maybe someone won't like it. I don't know, but I do have a little plan, and I want you guys to be involved in this plan. It's going to be an amazing thing if I can pull it off. I need to get some funding, but you guys are going to be integral to me doing this next album. And it's going to be pretty crazy, and I don't want to give the game away yet because I don't want anyone to copy me, but trust me, that's kind of the only thing I've got planned, and it's going to involve world music. It's going to involve my sort of style, which I've developed actually since I've had this channel. It's just really working on my right hand groove, that a lot of guys are with slide. If we're talking slide guitar, a lot of guys are sort of doing all the whole all this sort of stuff. For me, it's all about the right hand, and that's why I love Raikuda, because even that sort of song I was playing in the intro, it's all about the right hand, man. And Raikuda's right hand is beautiful, and that's why Raikuda is the best slide guitar player on the planet, because he's got the right hand and he's got the left hand. So he's doing these kind of just beautiful left hand technique, but then he's got that kind of, he's got all that stuff and the damping and the finger picking. We're talking about Blind Blake, which I played in the previous video. All that stuff. Sort of stuff. So really, musically, that's where I'm kind of going in that direction with this slide guitar. Rather than playing a million notes or showing off on the slide, I'm really into the songwriting and just trying to take guitar a little bit differently. My African influence. So it would be something like this. And then putting that with the slide thing and all these old 50s amps. So musically, I guess that's where I'm going, with the world music influences, the kind of swampy blues thing, Raikuda thing, mixing all that together. And that's really where I'm heading for, I guess. But I always like the avant-garde. I love players like Henry Kaiser. Check him out. Incredible avant-garde. I love the Eric Dolphy. I love the avant-garde, So if I bring those two worlds together with some good songs, then that's really where I'm heading for musically, yeah. Okay, so Brandon asks, what is your favorite guitar? ¿Cuál es tu guitarra favorite? I'm sorry, my English is not so good. Yo puedo hablar un poco español, pero mi español no es tan bueno, pero mi favorite guitarra, tengo muchas guitarras que me gustan. So I kind of like a lot of guitars, depending on what inspires me when I wake up in the morning, or what I have planned for that day. So today I wanted to get slidey and play my Kudacaster, which is a replica of Raikuda's guitar. But it could be that I want to play a Stratocaster and channel Ronnie Earl or Steve Ray Vaughan, or somebody like that. Great players, Buddy Guy. Or it could, just depending what vibe you're feeling. And so it's good to have a selection, 10, 11, 12 guitars, all pitched to different things, people that have 10 PRSs, what's that about, man? What's that about? Why do you need 10 PRSs? You only need one. I have one Les Paul guitar from my Peter Green Blues Breaker Eric Clapton days, where I want to just, I want to go back to when I was 17 and obsessed with, a Hard Road album. I have that Les Paul here. I hardly ever play it. I don't play it. It's not something I want to play on stage or I want to record with. But I have to have it because, we sometimes we have those days where we need to fulfill that Les Paul fantasy. And that's why I have my Les Paul. Okay, so I hope that answers you, Brandon. I don't think there is a favourite guitar. I have favourite guitars, but I don't have a favourite guitar. If I had to sell, them all and keep one, I don't think I would be able to. That's the honest answer, because they are doing different things. I mean, probably I'd keep a slide guitar and some kind of a Telecaster. So if I had to, it would be a slide guitar and a Telecaster. I guess they would be my favourite guitars. There you go. It's Chrono asked me, who is my favourite Beatle? And that changes a lot, because originally, when I was a young kid, I used to like Ringo Starr, because Ringo used to do the Thomas the Tank engine cartoons. Not cartoons, sort of model railway thing. So he was my favourite, and he did Yellow. Did he sing Yellow Submarine? I can't remember. But he used to sing with a little help from with a little help from my friends. He sang, and did he sing another really cool song, Octopus's Garden? When you're a kid, he sang all the cool songs. When I'm 64, he sang that. I'm pretty guessing he sang that. Yeah, so he sang all the, when you're a kid, all the best songs are sang by Ringo Starr. And then you kind of get a bit older and you think, okay, John Lennon, he's the cool guy, the rock and roller, the edgy Beatle. So then you go through your John Lennon phase, and then I became a guitarist, and then it was all about George Harrison. So George Harrison really, George Harrison is my favourite Beatle by far, because he, post the Beatles, I think his work was certainly identified with his albums much more than any of the other Beatles. So George Harrison is my favourite by far. He's a guitar player, so come on. But he's a great singer-songwriter. All Things Must Pass, incredible songs, Isn't It a Pity, My Sweet Lord, just, killer. Wah Wah, I could go on. But then Paul McCartney, let's talk about Paul McCartney. He was the kind of nicest. I think he was actually the nicest Beatle. He'd invite strangers off the street to Abbey Road, and when I was doing a lot of research about the Beatles, I found that he was a really nice guy. I think he's a little bit egotistical, that some have said. There's a funny video of him and Eric Clapton talking, and where they followed Paul McCartney around, and Eric Clapton's kind of like, "Are you on planet Earth, Paul?" And and Paul was like, "Well, when John and I, I can't do a Paul McCartney impression, but I can't do the Liverpool accent. Liverpool." I think Paul McCartney, his contribution is maybe sometimes overlooked, or maybe it isn't. I don't know what the case is, but certainly, for the Beatles, the music, he was a massive, 50% or more of the input, But without John, you got that edginess, and then you got the nicety of Paul, so that yin and yang works really well, But I'd say my favourite, I guess, if you ask me now, my favourite is George Harrison, because there's something spiritual about him and mysterious that the other Beatles I don't think had. So there's your answer. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Paul asked me, what do you tell yourself to stop getting sucked into the hype of new, better models of guitars and amps? I guess I like to say this is the path of the ordinary people, the masses, and then this is my path. I always like to be somewhere a little bit different. So when I made this guitar here 13, 14 years ago, nobody was doing any replicas. There was a guy called Michael Messer, and there was me and a couple of other people that were playing these guitars, these replicas. Now everybody and his auntie is playing one. So that's why I've kind of retired this. I only have it at home, and I've built my own Telecaster. But even then, I might do something a little bit different, because I like to be a bit different. I don't like to. So to answer your question, I like to be a bit different, to play guitars on the obvious. I won't gig a Les Paul or a Stratocaster, for example. I won't gig those two guitars because everybody does. Telecasters I will, because you can modify tellies a lot easier. You can make them your own. But I'm always trying to get my own personality with my equipment, and so I look for things that are a little bit rare, a little bit hard to come by. I think they're a bit unique. When something gets really popular, then I ditch it and I'll go somewhere else. I think that's a really cool thing, to be influenced by your heroes, but choose a piece of their gear that is hard to get. Don't just because John Mayer plays a TS10. Okay, we all have to buy a TS10. Look at my TS10. You know, it's silly. That's one reason I won't buy a TS10, because John Mayer used it. You know, or if Joe Bonamassa, you know, uses something, I won't use it on purpose because I don't want to copy. You know, Joe's a great guitar player, John Mayer's a great guitar player, but I'm not going to copy them. I want to be very different from them. You know, not that I'm famous or anything, but I like to find my own unique path and use my ear to what's good. You know, and in fact, I'm much more influenced by people like Henry Kaiser, who are just, you know, off to the left field, whatever, doing something very interesting, very unique. That's what I'm interested in. Bill Frisell, for example, you know, players that are a little bit edgy. That's what I'm into, you know. So that's why I don't get sucked in. You know, if something's like, for example, something becomes popular, like I don't want to keep picking on PRS, but that's why I don't play PRS, because it's too obvious. It's too obvious. They're too well made. They're too, you know, I want to fight the guitar a little bit. I don't want the guitar to be perfect. I want there to be a few little problems that I've got to overcome in order to play it. You know, like this guitar's got 12 round wounds, high action. So, you know, it's hard for me to navigate this, playing this guitar. So that's the fun. I have to work hard, you know. So there you go. James asks, how did you and Bob meet? And sorry if this has been described before. Well, the way Bob and I met was through this and this amplifier. So Mystic Blues amps are so rare, and they're not expensive. A Mystic Blues amp is not expensive. It's cheap. You can get one second hand for maybe £2,500. They're not expensive. They should be, but they're not. And I don't know if that's expensive. 2,000 for a handmade Dumble style amplifier. Maybe that's expensive. I don't know. But you know, Two Rocks are what, 5,000. But there's so few of them that pretty much everybody that owns a Mystic Blues Dumble style amplifier like this, that we know each other. You know, and I think when Bob bought his amplifier, he sort of asked around who owns one of these, and Ramon Goose owns one, Philip Seish owns some, but different model, but and a few, and so I think he contacted me and just wanted me to, you know, say, are they any good? So I've been using them for donkey's years, and that's how we met. We started talking about the amps, and then he invited me over to his place, and as you've seen, he's got a great collection of guitars, and then it's got great knowledge, you know. And I thought, wait, hold on, we could do, you know, something. I'd seen a lot of sort of duo sort of type YouTube channels, and I didn't really connect with any of them. I don't watch any of them. The reason there was one actually in America, I can't remember their name. There's two older gentlemen in America. I like them. They're good, and I like the banter that they had between each other. So and I really felt that Bob, when he was talking, I just liked his style. I thought we could do something which was valid and a little bit different from everybody else. And it didn't come across that we were, you know, buy this product, buy it, and somebody that I could rely on to be objective and tell the truth. You know, if something's crap, it's crap. You know, there's no good polishing it and trying to sell it to the, because people aren't stupid. You know, they're going to know. So I thought if I could get somebody that was knowledgeable about guitar gear but really could tell the truth about it, then that was it really. So that's how we met and formed the Bob and Ramon Show. I can't even say it, Bob and Ramon Show. Right, where are we? Maxwell, fan 55, asks, where did you learn guitar? Who were your biggest influences? And why did you want to choose guitar? Where did I learn guitar? I learned guitar listening to my mum's records in the early 90s. My mum had the most amazing record collection, you know. She had George Benson, the Rolling Stones, Robert Johnson, just everything, you know. I think she even had some Barry Manilow, so I even learned the Barry Manilow. I think I learned Mandy. But I just learned everything from her records. That's how I learned guitar. And my identical twin brother, played the bass. So when I'm playing guitar and he's playing bass and he's getting really good, and I have to be on the same level as him, so I had to practice harder and then I'd get better, and then he'd have to practice to get. And so we had this constant sort of battle of who could be the best on their instrument. Not anymore. We don't have that anymore. But when we were starting off, we did, and that sort of helped, I guess. But right from records, just listening to records, African music, all that stuff. You know, who are my biggest influences? You know, Peter Green. So the obvious, Django Reinhardt. You know, somebody gave me a Django Reinhardt cassette. And this is the pre-internet, so when somebody gave you a cassette, or something, you listen to that cassette from beginning to end. Somebody gave me Neil Young, New York, I think it was called, a record, an album when I was 17. I listened to it, or 16, I think I was 16. I listened to that album hundreds of times. You know why? Because that was all I had. I only had about 10 albums, you know, so that was one of the 10. So I think that was the beauty of those days, is that, you know, somebody gave you a compilation of Django, and you just listened to it over and over again. You didn't know what the hell was going on, but you knew it was good. And I had Wes Montgomery, so I had a Wes Montgomery CD, I had a Miles Davis CD, I had a Muddy Waters compilation. You used to get these £5 compilations, and you'd have Fleetwood Mac live at the Boston Tea Party, you know, all the Cream stuff, Rory Gallagher, Thin Lizzy. I remember learning Gary Moore, you know, getting into. I first heard Gary Moore in Thin Lizzy, you know, listening to his music, and then. That pretty much around that time he brought out After Hours, which was a killer album. So Gary Moore, definitely. Robin Ford, you know, all those guys, they were my influences, you know. And of course African music, Alpha Katori, some great Malian guitar players, and Guinea, some really good guitar players from Guinea. So all of that stuff. And why did I choose guitar? Because of my grandmother. My grandmother gave me £300. She said, you can either have a games machine or a guitar and an amplifier. And I chose a guitar and an amplifier, you know, and my grandmother was always going on about Hank Marvin, and it actually happened that me, my brother and my grandmother, we actually went to see Hank Marvin in Colchester perform. He was performing with his son, and it was amazing. But I just remember my grandmother always saying to me, Hank Marvin. My mum would tell me the two best guitarists were Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. Okay, where are we going here? So Johnny is asking me, I keep rediscovering the electric guitar and the joy of playing it. So do I. When going straight in, lowish volume, minimal effects, any thoughts along that line? Question mark. I get the notion of some lovely mystery playing hide and seek with me. I'm sure I dig any sort of madness you come up with though. Cheers, mate. So I think what you're saying, Johnny, is, you know, just playing with no effects and playing really quietly. That's the hardest, but that's the most beautiful thing to do on a guitar. And there's a video, I think I've got a coffee chat where actually I tell you that for a year, pretty much a whole year, or maybe even 2 years, or at least a year, I had to sell all my pedals for one reason or another. I had to sell everything. And all I was left with the guitars and the amps. I managed to hold on to those things, you know. And what I did is I developed, you know, I had to make my own effects. Okay, I've got some delays and reverbs on here, but with the right hand. So everything, if I come off that. You know, I just start coming up with rhythms and different things with my right hand to approximate the pedal. You know, and you can do things like that simple line, which approximates the slide. You know, look, and then you can do that same thing. You know, so if you're not, you know, if you're not able to do that simple thing there, simple little slurry thing, then ditch the pedals and play with your fingers, and, you know, ditch your plectrum and just, you know, make it your own, you know, find your own way of doing things to approximate what a pedal can do with a delay, you know. You know, practice your right hand rhythms, you know. If you're relying on a delay to get your rhythms, then ditch the delay and, you know, try and get it happening with the right hand. So that's the great advantage of not using effects. It's a really, really good thing. So thank you for that, Johnny. And my last question here today is from a fellow called Bellox. Not Bollocks, Bellox. And they ask, Marshall, Orange, or Vox? Great question. Well, you know, it'd have to be Marshall, wouldn't it? I mean, but old Marshall JTM 45s, the ones that Peter Green used and Eric Clapton. You know, the Marshall it's as English as a cup of tea. Although that's coffee. But Orange, you know, Orange had some great things, and Orange and Selma. We're going to do a history on Selma amplifiers actually. Selma were an amazing, you know, they made this hi-fi amplifier, which, you know, in a sense kind of shared a little bit of the Dumble sort of ethos, if not circuitry, but the ethos of making a hi-fi sounding amplifier. And then of course Vox, which were, you know, incredible amps, absolutely incredible. Rory Gallagher used them, Brian May, countless other, Hank Marvin, the Beatles. And you know, it was like you started with a Selma and then progressed to a Vox. You know, that was in the early 60s. That was what the beat groups used to do. So, you know, I'm saying Marshall, but I think Vox. It would have to be Marshall and Vox. I think you from all of those amplifiers, what I'd love is an early Vox. That's probably, if you had to ask me what I want, an old original AC30. You just couldn't beat it, could you? An original old Vox would be the best, you know. But then, you know, I played a JTM 45 from '66, I think, and that was pretty astounding. So yeah, either of those two. Guys, that's it. Thank you for subscribing and checking these videos. Sometimes they're professional, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes I talk complete nonsense, and sometimes I make sense, you know. But thanks for hanging in there, and we're going to get more professional, I hope, one day, and still make cool videos for you guys, and, you know, be straight to the point, tell you the truth. No, we're not trying to sell you anything on this channel. That's the whole point of it. And you know, thanks for all the messages. I do read all the messages. I actually read every single message that comes in. So thank you very much for everything, guys. And we're going to see you in the next Bob and Ramon show, which is out in the next few days. A special 30,000 subscriber edition of the Bob and Ramon show. And God bless, guys. Hasta luego, mi amigos, and take care. Bye.